Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt is a non-fiction true crime story. I only found out about this book because it was mentioned in a thriller book I read recently where the main character loves true crime fiction, and I never heard of this book, so I just grabbed the audiobook from the library. This one is about a writer who goes to Savannah, Georgia to investigate a true crime slaying and the trials. However, the author wanted to basically just give you a sort of lay of the land and introduce all these weird people, including the one in the hot seat for shooting someone, but also all these other characters that might that might be a little boring. I found myself trying to get to the true crime part. They don't introduce the true crime element till 6.5 hours into the audiobook out of 15, which is kind of insane because you kind of alienate your audience because you think you're getting a true crime novel, but instead you're getting these are the folks that live around here. We're gonna go into their lives first, and then I'll introduce the true crime. And the true crime element is over before even the book ends, so it's only 35 to 40% of the entire book. So the first huge chunk of the story is just introducing the different characters. There's Joe Odom, there's Lady Chablis, there's Jim Williams. All these different characters are introduced, and then sometimes it can be a little boring, interesting stories here and there, but you get a really deep sort of understanding of society life there. They like to throw balls and parties. They don't like it when people show up and film stuff because they disrupt streets and things like that. And a lot of period pieces like to film in Savannah, Georgia, because Abraham Lincoln movies and slavery movies, things like that. Yeah, so it's really hard to get into it because the true crime aspect doesn't come into about halfway into the book, and then when they finally introduce that aspect, it becomes more interesting. But then it sort of ends, and it was an all right read. It was hard to get through, but by the time you get to the true crime stuff, you have to keep going, right? Because you kind of want to know what happens. So overall, it had some interesting characters and some funny moments. But I wouldn't call it a true crime classic because it barely has any true crime in it. So I give Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil a 3 out of 5.